Welcome to Dejobnik, your command post for clarity and perspective.
At this critical juncture, I believe a new election is the only way to allow for a healthy and open decision-making process about the future of Israel.
That was Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer taking the unprecedented step of calling for the ouster of the leader of one of America's closest allies as they fight a war with Islamic terrorists. Schumer, the #2 Democrat official in America, calling for new elections to take place in Israel. The shocking move comes as the rift between President Biden and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu continues to grow. For reaction, we welcome the spokeswoman for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, Tal Heinrich, back to the program. Tal, good to see you. In his remarks, Schumer commented that the prime minister had lost his way, that he was putting his own political survival ahead of his people. Do you believe that what President Biden is doing in pandering for Muslim votes to win an election is he's doing the same thing? He is trying to win an election at the expense of supporting Israel against the terrorists.
Good to see you, Tom. Good morning to you and to your viewers. You see, first I'll address what Schumer said there, these statements. You know, Israel is a sovereign country. We're a democracy. This concept where the citizens choose who leads them, the government. And right now, in case someone hasn't noticed, we have a unity government in place. We don't intervene in American politics, and we expect to be treated with the same respect. The unity government and the war cabinet that we have in place right now, and the prime minister who leads them, really represent what the overwhelming majority of Israelis want to see, and that is a total victory over Hamas. We want to see all hostages back home. We want to see the elimination of this terrorist organization. We want to make sure that Gaza will never, ever pose a terror threat to us again. And we reject the notion of a Palestinian terror state. Chuck Schumer also listed what he believes are the impediments to peace. When we talk about real peace, not just empty slogans, then the real impediments to peace are, you know, Palestinian terrorism and their refusal to acknowledge that Israel is not some temporary entity and that it's here to stay. You remember very well that right after 9/11, when Osama bin Laden and radical Islamists attacked the United States, the civilized world closed ranks and rallied behind the United States. Right. And President George W. Bush back then, he said, it's either you're with us or you're with the terrorists. 20 years later, we asked the same question.
Yeah. Chuck Schumer may have his opinions, but how did the people of Israel see the prime minister's prosecution of the war against Hamas and the way that he has so far handled the situation?
You know, it's really not about the prime minister or the government or the IDF or the war cabinet. It's a decision that Israelis took as a nation. We no longer agree to live next to a terrorist enclave. It's been, what, more than 16 years that Hamas has been in power. We suffered, you know, maybe it's in the hundreds of thousands of missile attacks and you know, since they took power. They turned Gaza into a massive terror base camp. That's what it is. And after October 7th, we simply say no more.
A recent U.S. intelligence assessment was made public, and it suggested that the prime minister is in jeopardy of being ousted. This, again, appears to be an intentional effort to weaken Benjamin Netanyahu's political position while he tries to fight and win this war. Your reaction to that U.S. intelligence assessment?
So I'll tell you that here in Israel, we're not dealing with politics right now. Really, if you come to this country, what you'll find is national unity. We're all mobilized, being part of this national effort against the pure evils of Hamas. And why is that? Because when they targeted us on October 7th, when they butchered, murdered, raped, and whatnot, they didn't care who voted for what party, who was for judicial reform, who was against the judicial reform. So we're all in this together, and we'll leave politics for another day.
President Biden in recent weeks has been critical of Israel for not taking steps to ensure the safety of Palestinian civilians in their efforts to destroy Hamas. He's also called for a red line in Rafah and for a ceasefire to take place. Watch this.
He has a right to defend Israel, a right to continue to pursue Hamas, but he must pay more attention to the innocent lives being lost as a consequence of the actions taken. He's hurting Israel more than helping Israel by making the rest of the world, it's contrary to what Israel stands for. And I think it's a big mistake. So I want to see a ceasefire.
Prime Minister Netanyahu was quick to dismiss Biden's critiques of the war strategy. Biden and now the wider Democratic Party continued to suggest, along with many in the American media, that Israel is indiscriminately bombing and killing civilians. What's the reality there, Tal?
Well, that's for sure not true. If that was the case, the war would have been over in the first week, so to say. Israel, the reality is, has been taking unprecedented efforts in the history of urban modern warfare to safeguard the civilian population in Gaza, to facilitate humanitarian aid into Gaza, to make sure that collateral damage and the suffering of civilians in Gaza is the minimal one, whereas Hamas are trying to do exactly the opposite. They want to see maximized damage in Gaza, loss of life. These are the kind of images that they want the world to see. That's their whole strategy, Tom. They want Israel to take the fire for their own vile, bloodthirsty actions. That's their strategy. And when the world or someone out there puts pressure on Israel instead of on Hamas, it serves their strategy. It serves their goal. This is exactly what they want people out there to do. And it incentivizes their use of civilians as human shields. Hamas steals the aid, but then Israel takes the fire for it. That means that they will just continue to do it again and again.
Tal, real quick, I want to end where I began. Do you believe that President Biden, in an effort to pander for Muslim votes in his election, is doing that at the expense of Israel and our relationship with Israel?
Well, we do not intervene in internal American politics, as I said.
All right. Tal Heinrich, spokeswoman for Benjamin Netanyahu. Thank you so much for being with us. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Tom.
Thanks for watching. Drop a comment below. Don't forget to like, share, and hit subscribe to stay updated with our latest content. Until next time, stay informed and inspired. This is Dejobnik signing off.